The crushing weight of inequality, Memphis, Tennessee. February 1st, 1968. Two sanitation workers sought shelter from a torrential rainstorm that was turning their already miserable job into pure hell. Eckel Cole, 35, and Robert Walker, 29, were both black men working for the city's sanitation department, a job that paid poverty wages and offered zero respect. That morning, as rain pounded the streets, they did what any reasonable person would do. They climbed into the back of their garbage truck to wait out the storm. It seemed safe enough, a steel shelter on wheels. What could go wrong? Everything. The truck's hydraulic packer system had a catastrophic design flaw. While the men huddled in the back, something triggered the compactor mechanism. The massive steel crusher activated, and both men were instantly crushed to death, their bodies mangled beyond recognition in seconds. But their deaths weren't just an industrial accident, they were a symbol of systematic dehumanization. Black sanitation workers in Memphis earned starvation wages, worked without proper safety equipment, and were treated like disposable machinery themselves. Their deaths ignited the Memphis sanitation strike, the very campaign that would bring Martin Luther King Jr. to the city, where he too would die. The workers' slogan became legendary: "I am a man," because in 1968 Memphis, apparently that needed to be stated. Cole and Walker died because their lives were considered expendable. Their tragedy sparked a movement, but it took their deaths to remind America that black workers deserved basic human dignity. The Machinists' Final Shift, New Jersey, 1996. A 22-year-old machinist whose name has been lost to history was performing routine maintenance on a vertical surface grinding machine. Just another day at the shop. Just another cleaning job. The massive industrial grinder was silent, its cutting wheel still. The young man needed to clean the coolant sump, a simple task that required reaching deep into the machine's bowels. To get the proper angle, he lay across the machine's rotating table, stretching his body over the equipment like a human bridge. That's when physics became his executioner. As he stretched to reach the cleaning area, his leg accidentally triggered a hidden switch. The machine roared to life. The grinding wheel began spinning at thousands of RPM. The rotating table started turning beneath him. He had seconds to react. It wasn't enough. The machine crushed him instantly, his body caught between massive steel components designed to reshape metal. The same precision that made the grinder valuable made it lethal. There were no safety interlocks, no lockout/tagout procedures, no guards to prevent accidental startup. His death highlighted a terrifying truth about American manufacturing. Workers were dying from hazards that had simple, inexpensive solutions. A $50 safety switch could have saved his life. A basic lockout procedure would have prevented the tragedy, but profits mattered more than protection. And a 22-year-old paid the price for that calculation with his life. 3 brothers enter, none return. Madhya Pradesh, India, 2023. 5 men entered a factory cleaning tank to perform what should have been a routine maintenance. 3 of them shared the same blood, the same home, the same fate. The tank contained residual toxic gases, invisible killers that turned a simple cleaning job into a death trap. The first worker descended into the confined space and immediately collapsed, overcome by hydrogen sulfide or carbon monoxide. His unconscious form lay crumpled at the bottom. Then came the second worker and the third, each one collapsing within minutes of entering the tank, their lungs burning, their hearts stopping. Guess what? 3 of the 5 workers were brothers. When the first brother didn't respond, the second went in to save him. When neither came out, the third brother descended to rescue them both. None survived. The toxic gases claimed all 5 lives, devastating not just one family but an entire community. Parents lost 3 sons in a single day. Children lost their fathers. Wives became widows. The cruel irony? Each death was driven by love. Brothers trying to save brothers. Friends refusing to abandon friends. The very bonds that make us human became the mechanism of their destruction. Triangle Shirtwaist Factory, 146 souls, One preventable hell. March 25, 1911. Manhattan's Ash Building, floors 8 through 10. The Triangle Shirtwaist Factory employed nearly 500 workers, mostly young immigrant women who'd come to America seeking better lives. Instead, they found death waiting at their sewing machines. 4:40 p.m. Someone dropped a cigarette or match near piles of fabric scraps. In seconds, the cutting room erupted in flames. The fire spread with terrifying speed, consuming cotton fabric, wooden floors, and human hopes with equal hunger. The workers ran for the exits. That's when they discovered the true horror of their situation. The factory owners had locked the fire escape doors to prevent theft and unauthorized breaks. Workers were trapped on the top floors of a 10-story building with flames racing toward them. Panic consumed the floor. Young women pressed against locked doors, their fists bloody from pounding on steel that wouldn't yield. Others ran to windows, staring down at the street 9 stories below. The fire department's ladders only reached the 6th floor. One by one, 146 workers, mostly young women and girls aged 14 to 23, chose to jump rather than burn. Their bodies hit the pavement with sounds witnesses would never forget. Most victims were recent Italian or Jewish immigrants who'd traveled thousands of miles for opportunity, only to find death in a factory that prioritized profit over basic human safety. The Triangle Fire didn't just kill 146 people, it murdered the American dream itself, revealing that for many workers, the promised land was actually a death trap with locked exits and corporate indifference. Tazreen Fashions Fire. November 24, 2012. Ashulia, Bangladesh. The Tazreen Fashions factory was buzzing with activity, producing clothes for Western brands. Workers hunched over sewing machines, focused on meeting impossible quotas. Then came the smoke. A fire had started on the ground floor, but workers on upper levels weren't immediately aware of the danger. When the flames began climbing the building stairs, panic spread faster than the fire itself. Workers rushed toward exits only to discover a horrifying truth. Many of the doors were locked from the outside. Factory management had sealed escape routes to prevent theft and control worker movement. The fire killed 117 people and injured many more, with survivors like Shahnaz losing their eyesight and suffering broken bones. Workers who managed to escape often did so by smashing through windows or climbing down makeshift ropes, their bodies bearing permanent scars from their desperate flight. But the physical injuries were just the beginning. Many survivors were neglected in compensation and medical care, left to cope with disabilities, trauma, and poverty, while the global fashion industry continued churning out cheap clothes. The clothes made it to market. The workers didn't make it home. Bhopal gas disaster, December 2nd, 1984. Bhopal, India. Shortly before midnight, Union Carbide's pesticide plant began leaking death into the air. More than 40 tons of methyl isocyanate gas escaped from the facility, immediately killing at least 3,800 people and exposing nearly 500,000 others to the deadly chemical. But the numbers only tell part of the story. Plant employees discovered the leak around 11:30 p.m., but a supervisor dismissed their concerns, calling the leaking liquid just water and saying he'd deal with it after his tea break. By then, the gas had already begun its silent, invisible march through Bhopal's sleeping neighborhoods. The initial effects were devastating: coughing, severe eye irritation, suffocation, burning respiratory tracts, breathlessness, stomach pain, and vomiting. Those who ran inhaled more poison than those who stayed in vehicles. But the true horror extended far beyond that first night. Tens of thousands died in the following years from gas-related illnesses, while 500,000 others suffered permanent disabilities, blindness, and recurring health problems. Children born years later showed birth defects linked to the disaster. As many as 10,000 people died within 3 days of the leak, making it the worst industrial disaster in human history. The plant had been operating with substandard safety systems, understaffed crews, and deferred maintenance. Corporate negligence had transformed a pesticide factory into a weapon of mass destruction. 40 years later, the site remains contaminated. Rana Plaza collapse. The day fashion killed 1,134 dreams. April 24, 2013. Savar, Bangladesh. The 8-story Rana Plaza building housed multiple garment factories employing around 5,000 people, producing clothes for major Western brands. The day before the collapse, workers noticed alarming cracks running through the building's walls. Despite visible structural damage, garment workers were ordered to report to work while other businesses in the building closed. 9 a.m. The morning shift was in full swing when the unthinkable happened. The building pancaked in seconds, 8 floors of concrete and steel crushing everything beneath in a thunderous roar that could be heard for miles. 1,134 workers were killed, with nearly 2,600 injured, many trapped under tons of rubble and machinery for hours or even days. Over 17 days of search and rescue operations, 2,438 people were evacuated from the ruins. But for over 1,000 families, there would be no reunion. The factories produced clothing for international brands including Benetton, Zara, The Children's Place, El Corte Inglés, Joe Fresh, Mango, Matalan, Primark, and Walmart. Companies that profited from rock-bottom prices while workers paid the ultimate cost. The Rana Plaza collapse wasn't just a building failure. It was a moral collapse of an entire industry that prioritized profit margins over human life. It remains the deadliest disaster in clothing manufacturing history. Thousands of lives lost to corporate indifference. These workers didn't die from acts of God, but from human negligence. The shift is over, but the fight for worker safety continues. What are your thoughts on these horrendous workplace deaths? Share in the comment section. And don't forget to like and subscribe.